Daniel chapter 2 verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly weak. FREXIT on horizon. Ex-Brexit chief negotiator Barnier reveals what may prompt France to leave EU. Shalom, all praises, glories and honors to Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahushai Ba'Hashem Racha Kodash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone who have taught me this truth, as well as men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad, which means peace and mercy, to the elect of the nation of Israel, or my so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the seed line of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'm scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. To you I say Shalom, and Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai Ratazah. This lesson is edifying and informative. This is a major news update concerning prophecy. And this is a part of the prophecy concerning America's allies breaking away from America and to then soon turn against America, which is Babylon the Great, and utterly burn her up with fire, pursuant to the book of Revelation, chapter 17, in which we will get, Lord's willing. Now it says, FREXIT on horizon. Ex-Brexit chief negotiator Barnier reveals what may prompt France to leave EU. And the EU is the 10 horns of the beast with 7 heads, which is NATO. Okay? And the beast is the pagan Roman Empire, which came back in the form of NATO and the EU. Okay? Recently we had Britain breaking away from the EU, and now soon we'll have France, another one of America's allies, that will break away from the EU. Okay? And France is one of the heads of the beast, okay, with 7 heads and 10 horns. The 7 heads represents the Greeks, the Romans, the French, the British, the Spanish, Germania Major, and Germania Minor. Okay? And these are all of America's allies. And they are slowly but surely breaking away from their alliances with America, Babylon the Great, and the EU. Okay? And this is all a part of prophecy, man. And this is very exciting times, man. And this is what we, as the prophets, beginning with the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, are to do. We are to continuously watch and measure the times diligently in itself by watching the news and filtering everything through the scriptures and warning the sheep, the elect. Okay, because the Lord is on his way, man. Our salvation is nearer than when we believe. So this is by Oleg Bornov. And it reads, Britain formally withdrew from the EU on the 31st of January 2020, entering an almost year-long transition period that wrapped up with the sides signing a post-Brexit trade deal after months of intense talks and delayed deadlines. Former EU chief Brexit negotiator Michael Barnier has suggested that France may follow the UK's example and finally withdraw from the EU. Speaking at a conference on the future of the bloc in La Touquet on Friday, the 60-year-old French politician referred to social unrest and anger in France over unchecked immigration as well as the red tape and complexity of the EU. We could draw some lessons from Brexit for ourselves. It's now too late for the UK, but not for us. We can find, not just in the UK, but here in France, in northern and eastern regions, citizens who want to leave the EU, Barnier asserted. The ex-EU negotiator insisted it is the bloc's responsibility to understand why the British left, and that it's important for Brussels to listen to the anger that was expressed in the UK and to implement the kind of changes that are necessary to better understand and reassure the European citizens that remain. The remarks came after the latest poll conducted by the French think tank IFOP, which revealed that Marine Le Pen, who leads the party national rally, would prevail over Emmanuel Macron by 2 percent points in the first round of the 2022 presidential election in France. Macron himself told the BBC in 2018 that the French people would probably vote to secede from the EU if they were to hold an analog of the Brexit referendum. He argued that you always take a risk when you have such a Brexit-like referendum. Just yes or no in a very complicated aspect, adding at the same time that since the context in the UK and France is very different, he doesn't want to take any bets. Macron also made it clear he would also welcome Britain's hypothetical return to the EU, which that's not going to happen. Return to the EU, which that's not going to happen. Stating that he both respects and regrets the Brexit vote. And I mean, this is pretty much the end of the article. The point has been read, but let's read on and just finish it out, and then we'll go to the scriptures. It says the United Kingdom left the EU on the 31st of January 2020, triggering an 11-month transition period that gave both London and Brussels time to conclude a range of agreements, including a wide-ranging free trade deal. The agreement, concluded on the 24th of December, came after months of tough negotiations, stalled due to a spate of pressing topics such as fisheries access and a level playing field for social, labor, and environmental issues. The deal was touted by UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson as a great treaty that would allow Britain to take back control of its own destiny. Was the destiny for Great Britain? Utter destruction by way of thermonuclear missiles, right along with America, Babylon the Great. Because the Lord is going to eviscerate this land, man. The Lord has a grand sacrifice in store for America, Babylon the Great. Okay? More than 2 months into the divorce, both sides have repeatedly clashed on issues ranging from the so-called Northern Ireland Protocol, which was linked to avoid a hard border with Ireland, and customs and veterinary regulations to CV-19 Vaselines. So this concludes the article. I'll leave it in the description box of this lesson, Lord's willing. Now let's get to the scriptures and conclude the lesson. This is Daniel chapter 2, verse 40. And the fourth kingdom. Now the fourth kingdom was referring to the pagan Roman Empire, whose deadly wound was later healed after they came back into power during the Renaissance through what was known as the Treaty of Rome, after taking down our people who, before they came back into power, were ruling up in Europe as the Byzantine Empire. Okay, the capital of the Byzantine Empire was Constantinople. It was also known as Byzantium. Okay, and Judah, Benjamin, and Levi were the ones that were predominantly ruling up in those areas for about 1,000 years. And then Esau, Edom, came back into power. And that's when his deadly wound, according to the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, was healed, during the time of the Renaissance, when they came back into power through the Borgias. And then eventually, as time went on, they signed what was known as the Treaty of Rome. Okay. And that was that fourth kingdom coming back. Okay. That was that fourth kingdom, which was the pagan Roman Empire, coming back in the form of NATO and the EU, with America being an extension of that empire. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. Why? Because the ancient Romans used iron in their warfare, okay, in their offense and in their defensive methods and tactics of going about doing things, okay. And now they use what? Missiles, weapons of mass destruction, assault rifles, guns, grenade launchers, because that's their blessing, the blessing of the Edomites. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, because the Roman Empire became so vast. Why? Because at their time, before they came back into power, they were subduing the known world at that time, okay? And known world at that time was known as Asia Minor, okay? That entire region. And a little bit beyond that, because, they became a very large empire to the point where they couldn't sustain themselves. They couldn't, pay for their military. And then eventually they had infightings, and war amongst themselves. And then what had happened was they had decided to split up into two parts called East Rome and West Rome. And East Rome was later known as the Byzantium, as the Byzantine Empire, okay? Because that's where Jake, started to come in and overtake Esau and, establish a new rulership, okay, for about 1,000 years. And that prophecy is written of in Revelation, the 20th chapter. Okay, but it says, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, and the feet and toes is basically the part of the body that allows the body to stand. Okay, that was that last part of this man's kingdom, of his rulership. Okay, but check this out. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, meaning that this man's kingdom would be mixed and divided. Okay, why? Because they came back in the form of what? NATO and the EU, with America being an extension of that empire. Okay, and America's allies, France, Great Britain, Germany, all our allies are going to very soon eventually turn against her. Okay, all the men of America's confederacy are going to turn against America, Babylon the Great, and burn her up with fire. Okay, after having used this whore as their, as a place where they do a lot of commerce, according to Revelation, the 18th chapter, a lot of traffic, which means trade. And part of iron and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. See? And the Lord says, what? A kingdom divided against itself shall not stand, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron. For as Thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. Why? Because this man's kingdom is going to be divided. Okay, we are at the last leg of Esau, Edom's rulership. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Because this man's kingdom is going to be ultimately divided, one against another. This is the book of Revelation. As a matter of fact, before I go to Revelation 17, let's go to Obadiah. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy, so all the men of America's confederacy, all of America's allies, even America's mother, Great Britain, they're all going to come against America. They're all going to turn their backs against America. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. Now, what border is this referring to? The border of the valley of Jehoshaphat, according to the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter. Joel, because that's where the Lord is going to judge the heathen nations round about, in the valley of Jehoshaphat, okay, which is Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat meaning Yahweh's judgment, and that's in the Arabian Peninsula, okay. Joel chapter 3 verse 2, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and part of my land. So now we understand where that border, or what that border is referring to, and where it is referring to. So now let's go back to Obadiah 1, verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. So all of America's allies, France, Great Britain, Germany, Spain, all these countries, all of America's allies of the NATO and the EU are going to turn against America. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee, because they don't really care about this place. They're only in business with America, for business purposes, so that they can profit and prevail against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Why? Because this man's pride has deceived him. He's gotten to the point where he thinks that he's untouchable, that no one can take him down. But guess what, Esau, Edom, you got a rude awakening coming, devil. Revelation chapter 17. You're going to understand, as Benjamin say. Revelation chapter 17, verse 16, it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast. Now again, that beast is referring to the pagan Roman Empire, which came back in the form of NATO and the EU, with America being an extension of that empire, okay? That beast whose deadly wound was healed, which was that fourth kingdom, as we had read about in Daniel's 2nd chapter, okay? Roman Empire. These shall hate the whore. And who's the whore? America. America is that whore that rides upon the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, okay? The whore that the Apostle John had wondered after when he had seen her, and shall make her desolate and naked, Isaiah 47, and shall eat her flesh, Malachi 4:1, Psalms 21 verse 9, and burn her with fire. For Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua had put it in the fire from the ICBM nuclear missile warheads, because the Lord is going to use 200,000 warheads to destroy this place, man. And it says, for Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua had put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua shall be fulfilled. That's why the kingdom was called what? Partly strong, partly broken, mixed with iron and miry clay. Okay. So now that's pretty much it. So now let's get one more scripture here in Revelation chapter 9, verse 16. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them, which are the ICBM nuclear missiles, okay, which are going to be shot forth from America's allies and from other countries such as Russia, Iran, Turkey, India, Pakistan. The Lord is going to utilize 200,000 nuclear warheads, which are the weapons of his indignation to destroy America, Babylon the Great. And the number of the army of the horsemen of the warheads were 200 million. And I heard the number of them, and thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions. Why? Because a lion's head is where its power is at. So as a lion's head where its power is at, so is a nuclear missiles warhead where its power is found. Basically, the power is found in the warhead. Okay, the Lord is making a comparison here. And the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions. So are the warheads. The warheads are as the heads of lions, And out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. By these three was the third part of men killed. The third part of men is referring to the sons of the wicked, who is who? Esau, Edom. Came back as Esau, Edom. By the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths. For their power is in their mouth and in their tails. So the power is in their mouth, the warheads, and in their tails, the engines that propels them from one continent to the next. For their tails were like unto serpents, because once a nuclear missile leaves a nuclear silos, it leaves a trail of smoke that looks like a serpent, okay, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. Neither repent they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornications, nor of their thefts. So this man, his kingdom is at his end, man. Esau Edom is about to go down. So, I pray this lesson was edifying and informative to the elect. I say shalom. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. Ba'Shem Kakodash Brakatham. Shalom.